Gork me, these things are garbage. Games Workshop's gotta replace these. Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Fest. Old Big Mek here, and that's right, we got a little bit of a rant today. Let's get into it. Alright, got my whole bottle of red squig ready because I have got a lot of ranting to do with this one, and it mostly involves the new Boyz. We're now getting kind of old, as well as some other old kits. Let's talk about it. Alright, so when I talk about Boyz on this channel, which is a lot, we almost always talk about old Boyz. The ones that come 11 to a box, that are cheap, that are multi-pose, that are compatible with the Ludas Burnas kit and the Bikers kit and a bunch of other things. We love that kit to death around here. But let's be honest, those basic sprues of the bodies themselves date back to around 1998 or so. And then they had the extra sprue with the knob and the special weapons and stuff installed somewhere around 2008-ish at the latest. So they are getting old. In fact, now that the Eldari have had their update, they might be the oldest single kit still in production that is a basic battle line troop. Now, it doesn't feel that way because these guys exist. These are the monopose Boyz. These are the new Boyz, the ones that come 10 to a box. And while on the surface they are really, really cool sculpts, right? They don't have the badonkadonk butts going on, and they have these really awesome dynamic poses. The box just makes no sense, because what you end up getting is 3 of these guys with shootas, and 5 of these guys with choppas, and then 1 guy with a stick bomb, and 1 guy with a heavy weapon, and then the knob. And that loadout just makes no zoggin' sense to anybody. You don't have to be a squig that's had his head stopped on by a titan to understand that this is really, really bad. And so what people do is they buy this kit, and they inevitably buy an old Boyz kit too, and then mix them up so that you have a squad of Choppa Boys and a squad of Shooter Boys, as Gork and Mork intended. The other problem being is that these guys are actually monoposed. They're not like these newer kits, like say the Tank Busters, the Breaker Boys, the Rekka crew, if you will, that have multiple build options for the same body. These are legit. There is only one way to build 8 out of the 10 models in the box. The only options you have whatsoever is the knob itself with either the Power Claw or the Big Choppa, and then the heavy weapons guy either having the Big Shooter or the rocket launcher. And then I think the knob, you can change his head. He has 2 different heads. He's the only one that has 2 different heads. Everybody else is one single loadout. And, well, when you have a pose this dynamic and this kind of detailed. We'll go with detailed. Again, they are well detailed. This is objectively a cool mini. It is a cool pose. Everything about it is cool. But if you can't change it, it becomes very obvious that you have multiples of these in your army. Now, I have talked about how to convert these guys before. In fact, I did a whole video on it. We'll pull the Uncle Adam Pachow up there. But I got around to building another squad of them recently, in fact today, and they really haven't aged well, and I want to rant about it. All right, now first, a little bit of background information. Again, not my first rodeo with these Boyz. Here is your stick bomb one right here, and this one came out of the original Combat Patrol box that came out in, what, 2021, 2022, something like that. These sprues are marked 2021. The first time I built them, there were some fitment issues, as most push fit models are. The little pegs are just a little long. What you do is you trim down the little pegs, and you kind of file some things to make sure that they actually fit flush, so that all of the seams are flush and you can't tell where the body line cuts are. And the first go around, that was fairly easy. I was able to, glue them together, paint them up, no big deal. The second set that I did, probably around 2023 or so, was a little bit more. And I thought that I might just have been being overly picky or had not the greatest one to start with, but I felt like I could tell that the quality had slipped a little bit. These guys, and again, the molds were made in 2021, but these guys were injected, molded, sometime in late 24, early 2025, because they literally just picked these guys up. They were brand new, fresh box, brand new, fresh, like off the shelf. It wasn't old stock sitting around. And you can tell that this particular mold is aging terribly.
Let me show you what I'm on about with the guys left on the mold. You see the mold line right here on his leg and his foot and how thick that is? That is not how the first printings were. You can see it really bad here on this guy where the mold line is also the edge of where his arm is. Look at how thick it is and pronounced and raised. What you're getting is a little bit of mold shift. You could actually see it in the sprue gate itself. You can see the bottom of the sprue there. It's got a little bit of a shift to it. So what's going on is over time, the top half and the bottom half of the mold aren't lining up well anymore. And so you're getting extra mold lines and then coming off of register where the two halves are not mating correctly. Look at the shooter there. Look at his fingers. Look at how bad that is. I've got old boys that I've bought this year that have been popping out of the same mold since like 2008, and they are not that bad. This mold is going south.
And for all of their failings, we have to give GW a little bit of credit here. They tend to take really good care of their molds, and they tend not to produce things past the end of a mold, which is very common in like model car spaces. They will mold a model car model and keep making it well past the end date of the mold. And the cars that you get out of it when you go and you buy your kit, there's flashing everywhere, which is where you actually get these like little paper thin pieces of plastic from in between the two halves of the mold. They become really off register, where instead of like this mold where it's, you know, kind of not lined up just a tad bit, it's more like not lined up by a lot, and you get like these kind of weird fitment issues and stuff. It gets really, really bad. I have never seen a Games Workshop mold do that. Now, we're talking plastic here. Molding metal is different. You are going to get different types of mold lines and mold shift with the old metal models than you will with plastic. It's just a completely different process. Those are mold in a spin molding thing. The molds themselves are rubber. They're not metal. It's different. So you got to discount all that. The same thing with their fail cast line, with their resin line, because all of their resin models were based on the metal molds. So they don't even follow the normalness of what resin molds are, right? So those are all completely different arguments. We are just talking about raw plastic, injection molded plastic. And on the injection molded plastic, Games Workshop takes really good care of their molds. There are some that are getting up there in age. There are definitely designs, especially the old hand sculpted ones, that have worse mold line issues than others. But that being said, what I've shown you now on this mold is very much the sign of a mold that is aging and a mold that is slipping. This mold, being a push fit mold, probably wasn't designed to continue to produce the way that it has. More than likely, this was designed to only come in that Combat Patrol box, and when they were done, they were done. And somehow, some way, it just keeps kicking them out, and they've put them in all these other boxes, and they've ended up overproducing on this one mold. So what does that mean for you and I, and why is it a rant? Well, outside of the fact that the mold is going out and GW is going to need to replace it, and making the exact same mold, even though they have it all saved and they can CNC it out, doesn't make a whole lot of sense because nobody likes this kit. I'm sure the sales on this kit are absolutely abysmal, especially compared to old boys. And they don't want to keep making the old boys. Again, the very basis of those kits dates back to the 90s. That's when the legs and the arms and the torsos and the heads were originally hand sculpted. And it doesn't make sense to have two different SKU numbers for the same actual individual unit. So GW has to replace these. Now, all that being said, We have heard lots and lots of rumors that orcs are going to be the big baddies in 11th edition, probably coming out next summer in 2026. I think those rumors are totally true, especially when you've got the likes of Valrak saying them, and I mean, the dude called the Stompa box like a year in advance. So we're definitely getting orcs. If we're definitely getting orcs, you can bet your bottom dollar we are getting new boys. The question is, what else are we going to get too? You know, if them Games Workshop fellers were smart, they'd make more squigs instead of boys. We all got plenty of boys, but how many squigs does you got? You could always use some more squigs, especially the red ones, because they give you the wah, because they go faster. If you want some red squig merch, check out the website, theredonesgofaster.com, where you can get really cool merch, like the red squig shirt, the hat, and the mug, which also holds your dirty paint water. And if you're too serious of a get to get into squigs, that's okay. They got you covered too, with the Go Faster shirt. Artwork by BenBam, available in all sorts of colors, hoodies, kid sizes for the grots, you name it, it's there. theredonesgofaster.com. Alright, back to the video. That brings us to, what are they going to make for that new edition and new orcs next year? Again, it's going to be pretty obvious that we're getting new boys, but then you can get into the foil category and go, well, what kind of boys, what's that kit going to look like? I think we can all guess pretty close what it's going to be. It's going to be plastic. It's going to probably have options in it, not be monopose. It's probably going to be more like the more modern kits where you got two build outs and then like the heads and the shoulder pads are all interchangeable, but you know, you've got these more dynamic poses that are kind of set in stone, which would be totally fine. However, that is far from the only kit that needs help at this point in time. We also got to talk about the Trukk. Now, to be clear, I love the Trukk. I have 6 of them. I've even built them totally from the box, including having the ramps be able to work. But let's face it, this kit is the closest thing Games Workshop makes to a full-on scale model kit. It has a complete underside. Forget holes in the bottom of your tanks. This thing actually has drive shafts, rear ends, engines, radiators, the works. This thing is the closest thing we've ever gotten to an actual complete multimedia kit. It's also ridiculously hard to build. I know everybody bags on the Stompa because the instructions are trash, but honestly, this thing is way, way worse than the Stompa because it was designed to be modular. You can actually have the driver be left-hand drive or right-hand drive. You can have the gunner kind of on his own or in a turret. You can have kind of this whole big get-up on here with the wrecking ball on it. There's different options for the front piece here for ramming into things. Where you put your different armor panels can change. Where you put your tires can change. It's a very modular kit, which is very cool, but also very quirky and hard to build. And well, you end up with a ton of things that just randomly hang off, like this exhaust pipe here that breaks off all the time, and this little step ramp that breaks off all the time, and these little extra armor panel pieces, not to mention your boarding ladders and all the other gubbins and things that go on this kit. It's just kind of a hot mess. It's also gigantic. I've talked about the Trukk in another video where I compared it to the OG Trukk and how much smaller that one was, as well as how big this thing is. This thing dwarfs a Lehman Russ. They really are that big. And in the pantheon of competitive or even just meta 40K, right, where they want you to play the missions that come out of the missions deck, they want you to play with the terrain setup that they give you, having a basic troop transport be so large is a huge detriment to gameplay. They've actually done a pretty good job of scaling the vehicles lately. Obviously, the vehicles are still a lot smaller than the minis. That has always been true of 40K. But they've scaled them also to where they're don't have a lot of extraneous things on them, so you can actually move them and use them. Not saying they're not detailed. They're very well detailed, but just the way that they are designed and built and the way that you put them together ensures that they function correctly and as intended on the battlefield, as well as continue to function for years because you're not breaking them all the time. So it's a pretty safe bet that along with new boys, we're gonna get a new Trukk. Now, I don't want to turn this into a what I predict we're getting video. I think that that's going to be a lot more fun and going to come a lot later because we're going to talk about a whole range of things with orcs, because I definitely think we're going to see new units and things like that. These are just the kits GW really needs to replace, even if they don't wait till next year. These things are just really, really rough. And along with the double Boyz kit scenario situation and the Trukk, there is one more kit that is blatantly bad now that they have finally done tank bustas, and that is the Warbikers. Now, again, don't get me wrong, I personally love this kit. I have 15 of these guys fully built and painted and kit bashed and customized, and they are super, super cool. But once again, these guys date back to the 1990s, and you can tell. They are super duper modular, which is great, but they are not as modular as you think they are. You see the little exhaust, or not the exhaust pipes, the weapons here on the back and how they interact with the exhaust pipe. You see there is one setup that is double gun, this one, and then the other two are single gun off of one side. And you are supposed to key your exhaust system with the weapons here so that it actually goes up and over the double gun piece, because that one sits differently than the others. So inevitably what happens is if you just kind of glue things on without thinking about it, you end up with the wrong exhaust pipe and it hits the weapons. Or you do something dumb like glue the double guns onto the gun thing here, and you have one bike with 4 cannons and then 2 bikes with 1 cannon, or one bike with double cannons like this and one bike with double ammo boxes, which is kind of hilarious and orky, but also, let's face it, a little disappointing as a player and a builder and a collector. You also have this kind of funky riding grot guy with a single punching glove that's just kind of weird. The knob is very awkward with his gigantic axe. And these models were originally designed to go on what was called a pill base. It was long and skinny, but it was very even along the sides. Now the new bases are these ovals, which makes the model kind of funky because the oval is almost kind of a little bit shorter, and when you put the bike on the base, I don't know, it just kind of feels weird and off. So I have all of mine kind of posed dynamically to where they're leaning to one side or doing something, because putting them straight up and down on this is kind of awkward. But the biggest issue is just going to be the fact that, well, one, these guys aren't very good in the game, so they're going to need a rules glow up, and when you don't have the options in the box to go along with that rules glow up, all there is are the DACA guns and your choppas. That's it. There's no other options on there to put on bigger guns. There's no options in there to do a power claw. There's no anything else in there to really glow up the kit. So they're going to want to do something like that, but also because these are compatible with those same old boys. Games Workshop is obviously going to completely get away from that boy setup. So there would be one other kit they'd have to do, which is the Luda kit. Again, pretty obvious. But if you got rid of old boys, Warbikers, and Ludas, every single kit in that old range would be gone. That being said, I don't feel like the Ludas has to be replaced because it still builds really well. And other than the one missing arm that is in the old boys box, it's not that big a deal. That being said, because that one missing arm is in the old boys box, they're definitely going to kill it. But you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to know that. But the Warbikers are definitely going to need to get replaced. I suspect what we're going to see is something a lot closer to the new Outrider style bikes that the Space Marines have, that the Beakies have, that are just bigger and chunkier and take up a lot more space, and you're going to end up running squads of 3 or 6 and not have these giant squads of 5 or 6 or 10 even that you used to back in the day with the Warbikers, because they're going to get bigger. You may even see a return of knobs on bikes or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But this kit definitely needs some help. All right, that's going to do it for major kits. Obviously, there's a ton of characters that need to be done. We haven't been able to buy a war boss for a really long time, and it's a mono build kit, so you're really kind of missing the mark there on being able to customize a war boss in the way that every other army in 40k has a leader box that is totally customizable, like your Space Marine Captain or your Eldari Autarch guy. Like, come on, we need a war boss. There are still some old resin guys hanging out. The Weird Boy especially is like one of the worst kits possible. to the point where people collected the big 3 of Weird Boys that aren't Weird Boys, just so they don't have to deal with that one kit. Plus again, they're really trying to get away from any kind of fine cast models whatsoever. So there's a lot still in characters that needs to be done that will definitely happen with the range refresh. But I don't think we're going to see any of that until next year when the orcs come out. The 3 kits that I talked about right now, I don't know that we're going to see them before 11th edition drops. I really don't. But if we do, it would be a really good thing, because honestly, I don't think anybody in 2025 should be building those kits. These monopose Boyz had their moment, and that moment is gone. This kit just is not aging very well at all. And I love all orc kits. Like I said, I've built them, I've painted them, I've built them again and converted them and painted them, and I'm building them again to convert a third time, or convert a second time to have a third version in my army. And I am completely out of love with this kit especially. But again, fully cognizant of the downsides to the old Boyz kit and the Trukk and the Warbikes. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and let's start getting our gears turning on what kits are going to be replaced, what new kits might come, and all that stuff. I think we could put together a really awesome prediction video, and then we can see where we're going to land probably about a year out. That'd be a whole lot of fun. So if you want to get in on that conversation, comment down in the comments below. You forgot to tell them about the contest. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. The contest. Let me borrow that from you. We are holding our second contest. It is called Win Old Big Mek's Heavy Metal. You see, I've been going through my personal orc collection, and I keep coming across all these really awesome metal bits from back in the day, as well as metal orc models. And we've decided to hold another contest so that you can win them. And the rules are really, really simple. Hop onto our Discord server. It is linked down in the description below. It is totally free. We do not paywall our Discord. Get on there and look for the section on the heavy metal contest. What you're going to do is paint any Games Workshop metal mini. And it doesn't have to be all metal. I do know that they made back in the day the ones that are half metal and half plastic, or you've got a plastic vehicle with metal parts on it. As long as it's got some metal on there and it's legit, you can do it. So what you got to do is post a before photo and an after photo. And you got plenty of time to do it. We are running this contest in May, June, and July. And at the end of July, after we've tallied up everybody, in August, we will pull names and see who has won. And the prizes are super awesome. You will be winning from my own personal collection of OG metal minis, including original Gaz and Makari here. You will also be able to enter by supporting the channel, either being a channel member here on YouTube or a paid patron over on Patreon, or purchasing anything on the merch store. Every single product you purchase is also an entry. So you can enter for free with the painting contest, or you can enter by supporting the channel. And yeah, sky's the limit. Have a whole bunch of fun with that. This is going to be a really good time. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let's talk about those other kits that we want to see replaced as opposed to need to be replaced down in the comments. And I really look forward to seeing your heavy metal projects over on the Discord. Until next time, walk on!